Hello everyone, FPL Raptor here and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. In today's video we have my Game Week 30 team selection and there is actually a little bit to discuss. Do we bring Haaland back into our teams, and if so, should he get the armband? And what do we do with the potentially injured Luke Shaw? If you are enjoying the content here on this channel, please do remember to like, comment and subscribe. But without further ado, let's jump into it. I got a green arrow. I know. They don't happen very often on this channel anymore. But Game Week 29 actually went well, and I would love to know down below in the comments, how many points did you score in Game Week 29? Did you manage to beat my... Should we say I scored 143 or 135? Technically, I scored 135. So we'll say, can you beat my 135? Did anyone get over 150? I would love to know some of your scores down below. For me, it was a really good week, and I've gone up from 30k to 18k. I've actually only had one green arrow in the last like 7 or 8 weeks. And that wasn't even a particularly big green arrow. So I really needed this. I'm now only 14 points off the top 10k. And that's really where I'd like to finish the season. So I've got the top 10k in mind. Anything from here I think is a decent finish. As long as I don't get too many reds, I think I'll be relatively happy. But yeah, this was a massive success. My bench boost scored me 33 points. As I said, 143 points minus 8. Pretty much everyone in my team delivered. The only ones that didn't deliver was Maddison, who I was pretty confident was going to have a good one. But as I said, Leicester just stink, and Maddison continues to play pretty well, but he needs his teammates around him to do something. He does have Bournemouth in Game Week 30, so I'm definitely keeping him for one more week. But it is a little bit frustrating. I know quite a few people captained Maddison as well. And then the 3 Manchester United players are the ones that let me down, because Rashford was over 100% effective ownership, which basically meant he damaged my rank despite owning him because so many people captained him. And then the 2 players that I brought in for a hit, Shaw and Fernandes, both got 1 and 4 points, so they didn't do particularly well for me. Luckily, I took out Zinchenko and Saka. Both of them didn't do particularly well either, so I was quite fortunate there. Very fortunate that Saka started on the bench, because if he started the game, who knows how many points he would have come away with. So I feel quite fortunate there. Fernandes actually played a much deeper role than we thought, and we did expect that this could be the case in the absence of Casemiro and Eriksen. Casemiro and Eriksen will be back from Game Week 31/32 for Eriksen. So hopefully when they are back, Fernandes starts to take a more attacking role once again. But at the moment, he is playing quite defensive. But the rest of the team was brilliant. Trippier, 14 points, Kepa and Chilwell getting a clean sheet. And realistically, it was the bench that I was so happy with, because I would say a bench boost score of 15 to 20 points is something that I would be happy with. Anything in and around that, I'm okay with. I think 25 is an excellent bench boost score. And last year, I got 26 points on my bench boost, which I was absolutely ecstatic with. This one, 33 points. And it was a genuine bench boost. Some people put their best players on the bench. These were, in my opinion, the 4 weakest players. Raya, Kane, Chilwell, and Botman. Botman and Raya, I was not expecting much from at all. Chilwell, I was hoping something from the Aston Villa game and less so from the Liverpool. They end up going out the other way. And Kane, despite getting booked, getting 7 points was really, really nice. So, like I said, to come away with 33 points in a bench boost is brilliant. And the other 2 players that I just want to give a shout out to was Watkins and TONEY, because I didn't expect a lot from either of them. I said it in my team selection video. They both had 2 away games. They're actually 2 players that are quite decent away from home, but I just did not like the look of the fixtures on paper. Coming away with a 17 and 11 pointer, 28 points combined between them. I'm absolutely delighted. So it was a brilliant week. I don't want to dwell on it too much because I'm sure there'll be red arrows to come. That was the team for 29. Let's now take a look at my team for Game Week 30. So looking ahead to Game Week 30, I have 4.8 million in the bank and 1 free transfer. And I am relatively happy with the team. I do have 1 chip left, which is the free hit, and that will likely be played in Game Week 32, just because of the way my team's set up. But we'll discuss that in the final section of today's video when I look at my team for future weeks. Looking specifically at Game Week 30, the defense is probably where I have the most potential issues. None of them are major issues at the moment, but there are a few potential issues. I've got the double Chelsea defense with Kepa and Chilwell. I've got the double Newcastle defense with Trippier and Botman. And then I have the flag Luke Shaw currently in my 11 and Estepinian too. So let's discuss that. We'll start with the Chelsea double up. At the time of me recording this, it's not 100% confirmed, but it does look very likely that Lampard will be taking over at Chelsea as like the interim manager until the end of the season. I'm not going to give my opinion on that appointment, but I would love to know down below, what do you think about Lampard being appointed again? My worry is that when a new manager comes in, they sometimes like to mix things up, especially in like the goalkeeper position. If there are 2 goalkeepers that are of equal ability, we've seen it in the past with different teams, I would not be surprised to see him start Mendy ahead of Kepa. I have no reason for that. I just think there's a possibility. I would say that arguably Mendy is the better shot stopper. Kepa's really good with his feet, we know, but there is no reason why he wouldn't go ahead and just start Mendy. That being said, I feel like the fair thing to do would be to continue playing Kepa, because he's actually been pretty decent for Chelsea until he maybe makes a couple of mistakes and then Mendy comes in. So I don't really know, but luckily I do have a very decent backup goalkeeper in Raya. So my plan is to start Kepa. If for some reason Mendy comes straight in against Wolves, well then I'll just get Raya off the bench because I doubt they're going to share minutes. So it doesn't really matter for now. It might change my future transfer plans though. It may well be that I use a bit of the funds to do Kepa down to a cheap keeper and just have Raya as my starting goalkeeper. I may well return back to Edison just because he has a double in 34 and 37, or maybe I end up selling Luke Shaw and trying to go for De Gea in goal or something like that. So I have some options in there, but for now, I'm happy. And Chilwell's a similar situation, but I just feel like Chilwell is too good not to be starting. My only concern would be if Chelsea switch back to a back four rather than a back five. I think that makes Chilwell a slightly weaker option just because he's not as attacking. But regardless, I do think Chilwell will be first choice. I can't see the likes of Cucurella getting in there ahead of him at left back or left wing back. So I'm happy with the Chelsea double up, but I'm going to be keeping an eye on it now that probably Lampard is taking over. The double Newcastle defence I'm delighted with because Newcastle continue to be really strong defensively and just a strong side in general. I think they are a top four side now, I would argue, maybe fourth, fifth. But to have two defenders for such a cheap price, remember we bought Trippier at a much cheaper price. Botman is still very cheap. I feel like it's a little bit of a cheat code. And if Luke Shaw is out long term, which we'll discuss in a second, I am very, very happy relying on Botman there. So let's move on to Luke Shaw. At the time of re-recording, I don't know the extent of his injury. Unless it is a very, very serious long-term injury, and we're talking kind of 2-3 months, keeping him out for the rest of the season, I will probably hold on to Luke Shaw in the hope that he's fit for Game Week 34. The reason for that is I don't actually need him for Game Week 31. I don't, sorry, for 30, I can play Botman instead. In 31, I can again play Botman instead. In 32, I'm free hitting. And in 33, I can't remember if it's Botman or Estepinian, has an okay fixture as well that I can play him for. So I don't need Luke Shaw for the next 4 weeks. However, I do need him in Game Week 34. So if the news we get is he'll be fit in the next few weeks or something like that, then I'll keep him. If it's much longer, I may look to sell him. But the issue is, I just don't like any of the alternative defenders at the moment. So even if Shaw was out, I may well end up keeping him for this week in the hope that potentially another option arises in the future. And I just don't feel like it's a good use of my transfer. When I've got Botman sat on the bench there, most weeks with a decent fixture, it feels pretty easy to just play him instead. So that's what I'm thinking about at the moment. Then I've got Estepinian. I'm not going to be selling Estepinian because, again, Brighton have 3 more doubles this season. 34, 1 of 35 or 36, and also Game Week 37 as well. So I'm okay with the defence. There are some potential issues with the Chelsea boys and Shaw being flagged. Let's now move on to the midfield. So because of the way that the doubles fall, I don't think there will be that many transfers in my midfield. And if there is, it's going to be for like one specific spot. The reason I say that is Brighton and Manchester United both doubled in 29, and they also double in 34 and 37. And Brighton also have an additional double in either 35 or 36. So it makes no sense to be removing my Brighton and Manchester United assets, especially before Game Week 34. But then you probably want to keep them after that as well. So I can't see myself removing any of the 4. McAllister and Matoma I'm very happy with. I do have a decision this week on who to start and who to bench. The only reason that McAllister's in ahead of Matoma is his data's slightly better, but I know a lot of people say that Matoma doesn't need the great data because he's such an excellent player and he will convert most of his chances. That's absolutely fine if you believe that. But the other reason I like McAllister is he's on some set pieces and he's also on penalties too. And I feel like that is a major advantage. And if I'm not expecting Brighton to get tons of goals against Spurs, a penalty could be the difference. And I think I want to start McAllister for that reason. And also McAllister feels like my guy. I feel like I've really backed him over the previous couple of weeks, captaining him twice. And I just really like him as an option. So at the moment, McAllister gets the nod ahead of Matoma. If you have a debate on which Brighton midfielders to start, let me know which way you're currently leaning. Then with the 2 Manchester United assets, we'll start with Rashford because Rashford is just an excellent option. There's not a lot to say. If Haaland is not back fit for Game Week 30, which I don't know at the time of my recording, I think he will be, Rashford will get the armband. If there's any doubt and I don't feel comfortable captaining Haaland, I will probably captain Rashford. There are some other decent options, especially in the attack, but they all feel like they've got a relatively low ceiling. They all feel like they're probably going to get you like 6, 7, 8 points. I want the opportunity to go massive, and I feel like Rashford has that in his locker. He showed us that in previous weeks. Fernandes is a tricky one because when Fernandes is starting in the 10 role, and when Casemiro and Eriksen are behind him, he is a brilliant FPL option, and his data all season has been really strong, and he's probably still on penalties most of the time. Rashford might take the odd one, but I think Fernandes will take the most of the time. However, In the absence of Casemiro and Eriksen, Fernandes has been playing a slightly deeper role. In fact, he's actually been playing as the most defensive or deep midfielder out of all of the other players. I mean, we've had McTominay ahead of him in the first game of Game Week 29. We then had Sabitzer ahead of him in the second game in Game Week 29. And then Fred come onto the pitch and Fred was playing further ahead of him. The reason for that is we don't have an out-and-out defensive midfielder in the absence of Casemiro. The second reason for that is we've really struggled with ball progression. And I feel like that's one of the major reasons that we've been struggling as a team, is that there's no one to get the ball and move it forward. That's namely because Eriksen isn't in the team, but also even when Eriksen is in the team, he's likely to progress the ball with passes. We don't have like a ball carrier, whereas Fernandes will pick the ball up and he'll make a couple of 1-2s and he'll drive the ball forward. And I feel like Ten Hag likes that. So I still think that when Casemiro and Eriksen back, which is sort of game week 31 onwards, maybe game week 32 for Eriksen, I do think that Fernandes will start to play a more attacking role, but it might not be quite as attacking as we saw earlier on in the season. And it might still be more like a number 8 role as opposed to a number 10 role. If that is the case, I'll probably still keep Fernandes for game week 34. But maybe he's not a desperate keep for sort of up to game week 37 and then beyond that to 38 as well. So for now, Fernandes is fine. I just feel like with the fixtures that he's got and the lack of options in and around, I don't see a need to take him out now. But I do have my eye on him, and I do accept that maybe wasn't the best transfer when we didn't know what sort of role he would play at the moment for Manchester United. And then the fifth midfielder is Maddison. A big letdown in game week 29 and also before that as well. I've owned him since my game week 25 wildcard, and he's really not been fantastic. This will be the final week that I own Maddison because he's got Manchester City next week, and then I don't need him for 32, and he doesn't double in 34. So this will be Maddison's final week in my team. I could really do with him signing off with a bang. Getting double-digit points would just be absolutely perfect. He's done it earlier in the season for me when he got that, was it 19-pointer? I need that again. Please, Maddison, please deliver. It's the best fixture you can hope for on paper against Bournemouth at home, but Leicester just don't look fantastic. Obviously, now going to be under new management. We could potentially see a bit of a new manager bounce, I guess, but I'm just hoping for something from Maddison, and I would be pretty happy. So that's the midfield. I'm happy with most of them long term. Maddison will probably be making way next week. I've got my eye on Fernandes. Let's now take a look at the three forwards and discuss my transfers for this week. So on to the three forwards, and I think it's a very similar front three to most. I've got Watkins, Toney, and Kane. All three have home fixtures, and all three are penalty takers for their teams, and all three scored in game week 29 as well. So really no major issue with keeping any of these guys. The issue that I do have is that I want Haaland back into my team. If Kane had trickier fixtures over the next few, I would probably just do Kane to Haaland. But Kane has Bournemouth at home next week. I think he's a serious captaincy shout. And at the very least, I want to own him for that fixture. And also, Brighton have been conceding chances. They conceded a few to Brentford. They conceded a few in the second fixture to Bournemouth as well. I don't feel like they're a particularly great team defensively at the moment under De Zerbi. So I don't feel like it's a bad fixture this week for Kane either. So I don't want to sell Kane, and I just don't feel like you can sell Watkins at the moment. Watkins is just scoring goals pretty much every single week, ticking along very, very nicely. Nottingham Forest at home, I would argue, is the second best fixture in the league, potentially behind Bournemouth at home, which is the fixture for Leicester. The reason that I'm not currently considering Watkins for captaincy is he just doesn't tend to get those massive scores in a single week. So he's only got 2 double-digit hauls this season, which was 2 11-pointers. Outside of that, he's got a couple of 9-pointers. And then he's got a load of 5, 6, and 7-pointers. He doesn't tend to do particularly well for bonus points. He does pick up the odd yellow card as well. He misses big chances, which again negatively affects his bonus. I feel like with Watkins against Nottingham Forest at home, a return is quite likely. Probably more likely than a lot of players in the team. But it's also quite likely that he won't get you much more than that. And I feel like the likes of Rashford, Haaland, if you bring him in, these kind of players, I can quite easily foresee getting 12, 13, 14 points. Whereas Watkins feels very much like a 5 to 9-pointer. Yes, there is the potential that he gets a penalty in one game and picks up a goal, and all of a sudden he's coming away with 13 points. And yes, it is nice to have that consistency and almost like that reliability at the moment with Watkins. I'm just slightly concerned that he's not going to get me more than a few points, and I kind of want that ability to get that monster score. The other thing to note is Watkins is slightly better away from home. He's not bad at home. It's not like all of a sudden when he goes at home he can't score goals, but his data is slightly better away from home as well. So for those reasons, I'm currently not looking at Watkins captain, but I would love to know down below in the comments if you're going to captain him. I still feel like he's a great option. I just prefer some others, which leaves me with Toney as the 11th player in the team. I don't hate this fixture for Toney, but there's a very good chance that I will have both Trippier and Botman. So I'm back in the Newcastle clean sheet there. And it's not even that I dislike TONEY as an option, because I feel like TONEY against Newcastle, we've seen in the past, performs quite well. It's at home for Brentford, and TONEY has got good data, and he's on penalties. TONEY has pretty much everything you would want from a striker. But I want Erling Haaland, and like I said, I just don't feel like I can sell the other two at the moment. So TONEY to Haaland, like many others, is the planned transfer for Game Week 30. I am going to wait for the Friday press conference from Pep to see if he gives us any information. We know we know that Haaland's at least back out on grass. We know that he is training. We don't know the intensity and extent of that training, and we don't know if he'll be fit for this weekend. If he's not, I'm probably looking at rolling the transfer, because I don't see another place that I want to use the transfer this week. I guess I could move to Salah early, but at the time of me recording this on Thursday evening, Salah apparently hasn't been pictured in training. We don't know what the reason for that is, whether it's an injury, illness, I don't know. But that's something to keep an eye on too. So I feel like it would just make sense for me if I can't get Haaland this week, or if I don't want to go there because he's a slight doubt. I'm happy to keep TONEY. This would be the 11 that I would go in with. The only things to think about is, do I play Botman ahead of Shaw, just in case, right, if Shaw is maybe a slight doubt and there's the option that he comes off the bench. But we'll, again, have to wait and see for the press conference. If Shaw's ruled out, then I'll just start Botman anyway. And then the other thing to think about is, do I want to play Raya instead of Kepa? I'm on the double up at the moment on the Chelsea defence. Do I just want to go for Raya against Newcastle to diversify and spread the risk? And I guess Matoma versus McAllister is another decision to make as well. But otherwise, I am pretty happy with the team. It's by no means perfect for Game Week 30. I'm expecting a much lower score than we saw in Game Week 29. Let me know what your team's looking like for Game Week 30. Let's now move on to sort of future weeks and take a look at my current transfer plans moving forward. So in this final section, we just moved over to FPL.team to just look at how the team looks for the next few weeks. We'll probably only go up to Game Week 34 because so many things change and happen over the next few weeks that I'm sure the plan will change. But let's say that Haaland is confirmed to be potentially available for Game Week 30. I think I'll make the move TONEY to Haaland, and I think I'll give him the armband as well. So let's say that is what I do. This is the way the team would look for Game Week 30. For Game Week 31, remember, I'm free hitting in 32, right? Because my team looks absolutely horrific for 32. So I will be free hitting. So it makes no sense to roll the transfer in 31, because a free hit wipes that out, and I will go into 33 with only one free transfer. So what I'm essentially saying here is I have a 1 week punt, I suppose, or I can use a transfer to set my team up for the long term too. When I look at my team, there aren't many players that I want to take out, and there aren't many players that I can bring in with just one free transfer. I don't want to remove my Manchester United triple up. They've got Forest, and also they double in 34. I don't particularly want to remove my Chelsea double up because they've got fine fixtures. They also double in 37. I'm not going to touch my Brighton triple up. I'm obviously not going to remove Haaland, Kane, or I could suppose remove Watkins, but I'm not going to remove Kane or Haaland. And I don't want to remove my Newcastle double up because they will double in 35 or 36. So when I look at players that I can remove, it is just Maddison, who was in this spot here. I would want Salah in that spot eventually. So for Game Week 34, I am going to want Salah there, but that would require 2 transfers and a hit. And so I'm not necessarily sure that I want to make that move. So what I'm essentially left with is, well, I might as well use a transfer on Maddison, who's got Man City in Game Week 31, and move him to someone else. And then in Game Week 33 or 34, I can then move that person to Salah. So I'm looking at 2 players at the moment, either Gakpo or Grealish. I don't need to decide that now, but I think I will essentially use it as an opportunity to bring in a player that has a decent couple of fixtures, and specifically for Game Week 31, and just attack it a little bit. In Game Week 32, like I said, I will be free hitting because my team's a mess. So the team will be reset. Going into Game Week 33, I'll have 1 free transfer, and this will be the team. The current plan, if possible, is going to be to roll a transfer into Game Week 34 so that I can get Salah into my team. So if I move forward to Game Week 34, this is the way that the team's currently looking. And as you can see, what I've done here is Gakpo to Salah. So Gakpo to Salah, but that leaves me negative 4.4 in the bank. So with that other 1 free transfer, I basically need to make that money back. So I've got 2 options. I can do Kane to a striker of some kind up to about 7.3 million. Or I could do Watkins down to someone like Greenwood from Leeds, and then make another transfer, for example, downgrade Chilwell to fund it. So I could make like a 3 transfer move to get Salah into the team whilst holding on to Kane. But I don't necessarily think I need to hold on to Kane. That being said, he's got really nice fixtures for the remainder of the season. No more doubles, but after Game Week 34, Palace, Villa, Brentford, Leeds. I do quite like the idea of holding on to him. So I guess I've not really committed yet to how I'm going to get Salah, but I do really want to get Salah in 34. That will leave me with only probably the striker, Trippier, and Raya is the single game week player. So I'll have 8 double game week players in my starting 11. The bench isn't too bad either. It's not like I've got a terrible benching headache. And I'd be really happy with the team. The team also does look good for game week 37. I'll quickly sort of briefly show you the other double. Oh, the doubles aren't loaded in there. If I click the set projected fixtures from Planet FPL, which is like the projected fixtures for game week 37, you can see, again, because Manchester United, Man City, and Brighton all double, I've already got quite a few double game week players for 37 too. So I have a rough plan in place. I know I want to get Salah in 34. I just need to think about how I want to fund that. Whether I want to keep Kane and go for this sort of 4 premium draft with Salah, Fernandes, Haaland, and Kane, or if I'm happy downgrading him. If I'm happy downgrading him, I need to find a sort of mid-price striker that I want to own long-term. So that's the plan. That's the team. As always, let me know what your dilemmas are down below, and I'll do my best to help you out. So guys, there you have it. That is my Game Week 30 team selection. Really all revolves around Haaland, whether I decide to bring him in and then whether I decide to give him the armband. Regardless of what the news is with Luke Shaw, I think I'll end up keeping him for this week. But I would love to know, like I said, what you're currently planning for Game Week 30. If you have enjoyed today's video, please do drop a like and make sure to subscribe as well. We are slowly creeping towards 70,000 subscribers. That is the goal for the end of the season. So if you've watched a few of my videos before and you're not yet subscribed, please do subscribe. Until next time, thank you very much for watching. Cheers. Bye-bye.